Mr. Chairman, I would like to have, I don't know how much direction we can provide here, but it seems like we've heard a lot of discussion, and from having talked informally with at least most of the committee members, I think everybody agrees that we need to do something about exempt wells. What it is exactly, I don't think is clear. I think some people would like to go as far as to eliminate exempt wells altogether. Some would eliminate them only in closed basins. Some would leave it just as it is. It may be a God-given right to be able to put in a well to service a household, but I think we all agree. We were talking about the straws yesterday and the calculations that Senator Hammer put together. We need to acknowledge that something significant is happening either in real life or potentially. And it seems that this mitigation banking idea is one that I'd like to see fleshed out. I don't know if it would be a private organization. I'm not sure if it would be a public one. But other states must have done something like this. And I'd like to at least have the benefit of some ideas. Some issues that would arise with that are very clear. It's pretty clear that Ms. St. Lawrence makes good arguments, but I think they're good arguments on their side. And I'd like to have that reduced to writing somehow so that at least the committee members could look at it and see if this mitigation banking idea or whatever it is a way that we can resolve that. Because the last thing I want to do is to try to have a discussion about this during the session, have all the interest groups line up and do nothing. Because we've had that happen now too many times on these important issues. And this committee, I think, because we weren't charged with an assignment specifically, has gravitated toward this, and maybe the coal bed methane as well. But I would second your idea and just encourage that we put something in writing to flesh it out without necessarily committing to it by virtue of asking our staff to look at it, but just for the benefit of having more information in a more structured format for the benefit of the committee members, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wallengreen. One other thought I've got, that this does not, in my opinion, have to be constrained to exempt wells. We have municipal water needs out there. We have other needs for beneficial use of water, and I would like to see us take a look at the broader look. And I'll make one other comment. I've heard that we don't want to get into a situation where we have created something like the liquor license value. My observation has been over the last several years I've been in this arena that, like it or not, it doesn't matter whether we do anything or not, water is becoming very, very valuable. And we have heard where some water rights were sold for a pretty good price. The market's going to drive that. The other thing I think we need to take a look at, and I think Senator Warren brought up a very good point, is how do you structure this? I would be really concerned if we were going to start another bureaucracy. We don't need another bureaucracy. We need to get the stakeholders together, and I know they're thinking and talking right now, and my hope is by our next meeting we can have input from all the stakeholders and maybe come up with something that really would be meaningful and something that we could set policy out into the future. And you know, it's been my experience on the myriad of bills I've carried in my tenure in this arena. They're not always perfect the first time. I've had to amend. I've had to go back. We've had some opinions change, whatever. But I think it's time that we take a look. Not asking you to just carte blanche say, yeah, we're gonna come up with legislation, but I think it's an opportune time, as Senator Wanzenreed said. We don't have a specific charge to look at anything exactly. But if it's not objectionable to the committee, I'm going to ask Joe to start looking into that. I think he knows the stakeholders. They know him. And we need to start getting information into Joe so he can start assembling that information, get some out to us early so we can start digesting it. You got some thoughts, get a hold of Joe. But I think we should give it a really good go at, see if we can't collectively come up with something that might be of a great deal of value and could maybe solve some of the issues that we're looking at in development and municipal water and the whole gamut, and not take a sledgehammer to a flea. And if that's agreeable with the committee, I'm going to suggest we do that. If that's agreeable with the Youth Center, Wands and Reed, and it appears it is, let's try to do that. And you got thoughts, we want to hear about them. And instead of individually trying to get a hold of Senator Wands and Reed, myself, I would ask you to funnel them all through Joe. Joe can get a hold of us, and if need be, we can get on this call or whatever and discuss what we want to kind of take a look at next time, and go from there. Any other discussion on that issue? Representative McChesney.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I think important to that discussion also is somehow incorporating the discussion of wastewater treatment, because there was a long time in Montana when before we saw these big subdevelopments, that it was a non-issue, and we put in the well and we put in the septic tank, and life went on great. And then all of a sudden, 15, 20 years ago, we saw a huge growth, and there's a significant interrelation between water and wastewater treatment. So I would like to somehow be able to incorporate that, and maybe even discuss how we can make sure that both are addressed at the same time in an equitable manner.
The only thing I would offer there, I think that would be a gallant venture. We may find out we can't, but if we can't, we certainly have to look at both issues. I have no problem with that, and that's where I think collectively we need to start thinking about those issues. We've had the gray water issue come up, and what do you do with that? And it's all part of what we should be looking at. But I think one segment needs to be some form of a mitigation account, or how you manage that, and then we can figure out, how is that going to impact domestic well exemptions and stakeholders that need to be in that, and those sorts of things, municipalities, how maybe we can come up with some way that by credits or by something that's well managed, we can speed up this process for developers, municipalities, whatever.
Mr. Chair, I believe, was it in your handout, Joe, that you had mentioned the state of Utah actually had I read it somewhere, that the state of Utah, I believe it was the state of Utah, actually has a water right bank where they're banking water rights to address these very things that we're talking about.
Mr. Chairman, Representative McChesney, it was actually in a specific area of Washington in the Yakima Valley.
Okay.
They have had exempt well type issues and have set up a mitigation type list / bank. Mitigation banks can take several different kinds of forms.